Okay, so where we left off, we have code that says add a new button, and of course it just prints out create button. So let's actually have it add a new button. All right, so what I'm gonna do is we're gonna think back through some of the variables that we've used, and we're gonna talk about some object-y things. So first we have to create a holder for our button. So we're gonna do let new btn, so that means let a variable called new button equal document dot create element, and then what are we going to call it? We're going to call it button. Okay. So if I were to run this code right now, nothing would really work. And you know why? The reason nothing would work is because even though we've created this button, we haven't added it yet to the canvas. So let's go ahead and keep working through this. A button isn't just plain, it has some text. So let's go ahead and set that up. So remember we did this with our objects, new button dot inner text, or I should say with our objects in that it's something dot and it has a value. In this case, we're going to set it to click me. And then we can add a class name. So a class name is essentially what happens in your style sheet. In this case, we have a thing called dynamic button. So let's go ahead and copy that so we don't type it incorrectly. Class name equals quote dynamic button. Okay. So we have that now, and then the final thing I'm going to do before we talk about how to make it useful is I'm going to actually add this to the page. So I'm going to type document dot get element by ID. We know this one. What are we going to use? Well, we had an area defined in our index called button area. So we'll use button area because we're going to place it into button area. Sorry, it's lowercase. And then we use something called append child, because this thing will now be the child of button area. And what are we appending? New button. Okay. So now when I run the code, add new button, there's my button that says click me. Okay. And of course nothing happens yet, and that is okay. I can keep adding buttons. That's what's actually really fun about this, and I'll show you as this week goes on, like, why are we doing this and we're not just making them, manually. The other interesting thing is, we were able to dynamically code some of them, right, in terms of like they have a margin of 0.5, they have a padding of 10. So yeah, it's pretty neat. All right. So let's go ahead next and look at our code and figure out how we can make these buttons actually do something when they're clicked. And so it's not too far off of this add event listener. It actually is add event listener, but we're going to do it a little different. And what we're going to say, and it's not going to be click, it's going to be mouse down, and I'll explain that in 1 second. Because now we're in the interaction design. All right, so we have our click me, our dynamic button. Next is we do want to add the event listener. So we're going to type new button dot add event listener. Cool, you've seen that now. Parentheses, mouse down. So that means when the mouse button goes down, actually. we're going to call what function? Well, do you remember the week we talked about functions? There were different ways you could construct a function. Usually we would write function, create button, parentheses, curly bracket, do your stuff, and curly bracket. But there was one that was along the lines of new function equals, and you could define the function as you went. And so that's what we have to do with this, or this is what we're going to do with this. So we're going to say add event listener, mouse down. We're going to say function curly bracket. What is the function? In our case, the function is going to be new btn dot style. So this means we're going to somehow change it to visual appearance dot background color is going to be equal to some color. In this case, it's the hexadecimal code is 58A6FF. Okay. All right, great. So now we're going to finally do new button dot inner text equals button pressed exclamation point. So when this gets added, when I press with a mouse down, the color will change and it will change to the word button pressed. It will not reset, and that's okay for now. Let's go ahead and look at it in our code. Add new button. I have not enough arguments, so I clearly did something wrong. What did I do wrong? Function. I need to match. No, don't need to match anything. I put that there, and it should have been there. No, it shouldn't have been. It should have been there. Okay? Yeah. So because add event listener takes what are we listening for, and then the function that should be called. In this case, it defines the function as we go. Save it. That was me mistyping my own notes. Add new button. When I click me, you saw how it got a dark gray. That is working great for us. We can, not only can we create a dynamic button, but we can also add code to that button, and then we can go ahead and execute that code.